Hello and welcome to another episode of CoCalled. I am your host, Carlos, and I am here with my beautiful co-host, partner in crime,
Carolina.
Carolina. She's so cute. Hey, can I ask you
glad
something
I'm
here
cute on this episode.
show?
Yes.
Could you be my Valentine's?
Is this because I sent you that reel? I sent him this reel the other day. It was really funny, and it was like, just me here waiting for my husband to ask me to be his Valentine, even though we've been married for over a decade.
Honestly, in my defense, and I know we're talking about business and marriage, and the hustle has been so fast.
I know.
That it's like,
I know.
Is it already Valentine's?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know when you're going to be hearing this episode, but it is.
It will be after Valentine. Well, no, it'll be after
Valentine's Day. So I hope you guys had a good Valentine's, all of you couples out there. I'm sure we will.
Yes, we
will. When the time comes. But I'm asking you here, would you be my Valentine?
I will
Forever
be Valentine. I will be your for Valentine.
I'm so excited that we're back with CoCalled on video, just because, again, you're looking at our beautiful faces. But also I want to remind you to like, share, subscribe, let your audience or let your friends know about this podcast. We've had some amazing feedback just throughout all our episodes.
Yeah.
And to all our
OG
new listeners.
New listeners.
We're seeing a lot of new listeners going back to like the archives and like listening to all the shows. So that's really encouraging.
Yes.
And the positive feedback. So thank you for that.
I mean, they're on this journey with us. Like our OG listeners have been on this journey with us since day one.
I know audio quality has gotten better. So yes. And then now video. So
I think content quality has gotten better.
Content for sure has gotten better. So in today's episode,
I'm so excited for this episode.
We are actually talking about what we wish we knew before starting a business together.
Yes.
You know, everyone talks about like becoming an entrepreneur and starting a business and doing this and doing that. And it's like you start it and you do it, but you're like, man, I wish someone would have said this.
Yeah. And I think it's double-edged. Okay, so we're going to get so real, so raw about what it's really been like, the lessons learned, the mistakes we made, all the different things. We have a fun little game we're going to play here in just a second. But I think to some degree, I do appreciate the naivety. Is that how you pronounce it? How naive we were going into this business and thinking, it's going to be amazing walking into downtown together and not really
walking by.
Not really knowing how hard this was going to be. But with that being said, I think we can kick off with the number one thing we believe or we wish we would have known that this was going to do to our marriage.
Dang, that sounds terrible. Bum, bum, bum.
No, number one, we believe that we have learned that business reveals the best and worst in you.
Yeah. Okay.
I remember when we first started CoCalled, we had this episode and we talked about the concept of the magnifying glass.
Yeah.
That, hey, have the hard conversations before you get into marriage, because when you get married, these little red flags, these little icks you have of your spouse, they just magnify in marriage if you don't work them out in your courting, dating, engagement stages. Okay, this is exactly what business does.
To a third degree.
To a married couple. I cannot think of a bigger magnifying glass on our marriage than these last 3.5 years where we've been building this business. My goodness, I've just seen the best, the worst, the crazy, the unpredictable of you, of me, and of ourselves together since we've been doing this message. No, I have not I've wanted to, but I haven't beat you.
No, it's insane because you do naturally just start witnessing like, wait a minute, who is this person?
Yeah.
But on the other side, you start experiencing like, wow, who is this person?
Yeah.
Like, she's amazing. Look at that. I mean, Carolina's been on the cover of, I'm kidding.
Stop.
She's been, articles been written about her. She's been in conferences on platforms, just talking about business growth, life, parenthood, autism, all the above. And I'm just like in this last, in these years of business and working alongside you. And I'm like, wow, she's killing it.
I'm a business gangsta during the day, but then at home,
She's a freak in the bed.
I'm
kidding.
wow.
But it's true. It is a fact. We are married, and this is a marriage podcast.
Okay, can we not put that out into the interwebs of the world? Have just any talk about that right now?
You should be proud of this.
I was going to say that I am
She's a lady.
Passenger princess when I come home, and I do just want to be held, and I don't want to be in charge of anything when I come home except doing the things that I do as a mom.
Yeah.
But so that works out really well for us.
So as I've seen the great things and the questionable things, which you probably have seen in me as well.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned or we've learned is just to be patient with each other and to have grace.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We have to give each other so much grace.
I think we've practiced this in marriage all along, right?
Yeah.
Just even parenthood, marriage, finances, everything that we've been able to have grace to each other. But now in business, it's like, well, you should know this and you should do this and you should this and that. But it's like, but should you?
Yeah.
So it's almost like you have to step back and be like, okay, I understand. Or she's doing this or he's doing that. So
yeah. And
I've learned that.
It's the first time we're seeing each other as business owners, right? So even though we've been married for, at that point, 10 years, 10 years, this is the first time you're seeing me as your business partner and you're seeing me operate in that space. Same me, you. And so we've got to give ourselves so much grace in that and like understand that there's no such thing as too much grace in these early years, because we are going to make a lot of mistakes. Now, if you keep making the same mistakes, then at some point I got to be like, babes, that's not
your forte.
Working out. You got to give it up.
Step down.
We got to move around this. But in those beginning stages, those early days, we're all learning. And I think if you keep that top of mind, and we are just understanding that, hey, we are under some crazy pressure and that is naturally going to bring out both the best and the worst in you, we're going to be okay.
Well, you got to realize this. Every early entrepreneur, whether married or not, wears multiple hats. I'm the barista here. I'm the housekeeper. I'm not the accountant because I don't deal with numbers or paperwork. So when it comes to that, you got to understand, like, oh, wait a minute. Like, they're not just out there doing this or ABC. I mean, they're doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and all of it.
And then we go home and do all of that.
All of that there.
At home.
So it's like, that's one of the biggest things I've learned to, like, just, be patient and understand, like, okay, you're going to have bad days too, which I've had bad days too. It's like, we get home, how can I support you? Even though I've seen you all day and I've been annoyed at you all day, at home, it's like, okay, what can I do? Because I know you're having a bad day.
Right.
That's grace. That's called being there for your partner and your
spouse.
Your spouse.
Okay. Okay, let's play a game.
All right.
Are you ready? Okay.
But you have to play fair though.
We're going to play. There's no one wins at this game. There's no prize.
What's the game?
The game is we're going to talk about the best and the worst advice we have heard or received as a married couple that is building something together.
Okay, that's easy.
Okay. Go. So we should start with the worst advice. So you tell me.
One of the worst things that I've heard is that one of us should always be the boss.
Preach that.
So this is why I think it was bad advice, because when I'm not here, you're here. And when you're not here, I'm here. And when we're both here, I'm here. I'm kidding.
Okay.
But that's one of the worst pieces of advice, because it's like, how are we going to co-found and coexist together if like, oh yes, boss, what can I do for you?
Yeah. Well, I think it's just we've had to learn to make decisions as a team because we are a team. And the thing is that even though that hierarchy in our home is, I think at the end of the day, you really make the decisions in our home. I think we have a very healthy biblical like standard of that. In the business, that doesn't really translate well, because if your strengths are not to be the boss in certain areas, then we're just doing ourselves because we have to keep this hierarchy. Listen, if I happen to be the person that gives the better tours, then let me be the person that does the tours. That's okay.
Even though there's a little competition. But
we all know I give the better tours.
I seal the deals. No, and that's true. Yeah.
But it's a team. It's a team effort, right? And so this is where we really have to lean into our strengths. You do such an amazing job at, I think,
closing deals.
I was going to say leading the team.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Where I can struggle a little bit with like people pleasing and whatever, which doesn't always serve the business.
Yeah.
I'm a great people person, and I think hopefully our team, hopefully you guys agree with this team editing this show. But, I do think I do an incredible job at like being an interpersonal leader and like really having empathy and doing all that and being very nurturing. But sometimes that doesn't always serve the business. And so when it comes down to making some really hard decisions, you're much better at really making that call.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a good one. Okay, I'll tell you one of the ones I heard. Just divide, everything should be 50-50. If you're working together, then everything should be 50-50. 50-50 at the office, 50-50 at home, 50-50, 50-50, 50-50. I'm so over that. Is the worst advice I've heard. Again, going back to what we were just talking about, if my strengths happen to be in a certain area, then why wouldn't I take those things on, even if it means a little bit more work here and there? I don't edit. Carlos will stay up till 3 a.m. editing something. That is not my forte. Does that mean that I should then work till 3 a.m. on something else because he stayed up till 3 a.m. and because thus things must be 50-50, then we have to do that? No. It's actually good for me to go rest and have a full night's sleep, because when we wake up in the morning and somebody has to get kids ready and we have to do all that and I have to wake up earlier to take care of those things, then we're able to work as a team and accomplish that. Yeah. So by goodness, the 50-50 thing just has to be thrown out the window, please, for all that is sacred and holy.
Another one that I've heard is don't work with your spouse because it'll ruin your marriage.
This is true. For some people, it might be true.
I see how that can be some
for our marriage. That has not been
honestly,
the case.
I've found it to be so gratifying.
Yeah, I think it's done the opposite for us. I think it's really strengthened,
brought us together.
Our marriage.
We've been to meetings like or networking events, and we're just like, honestly, I feel like a power couple. Like, sometimes you're in a room and you're like, who am I going to talk to? And it's like, we have each other, but then people gravitate towards us. And I've found it more beneficial to work and be married or basically to partner with my spouse in business and I don't think it's ruined anything.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think it's done the contrary. So that's
100%.
One thing that I was like, doesn't really fit us.
Yeah, 100%. We wouldn't be here if we would have followed that advice.
It's still early, honey.
Okay. Let's switch gears to some of the best advice, because we don't want this to be all doom and gloom. What is one of the best advice you think? And I think we'll have more of these than worst advice.
I think it just goes in line with what your worst advice and my worst advice. But it's defining the rules.
Yeah, for sure.
And the expectations from the start. I think when it came to us, we were it was, again, very easy to define because there were certain things that I was obviously very good at and very bad at. And I understood that there was bad things that I was bad at, where I was like, shines in this. So it's a no-brainer.
Right.
I think defining that, having that clarification of like, okay, you're going to do this and I'm going to do this, was at the very start was just awesome.
Yeah. I'll piggyback off of that, and the advice that we got, and I can't remember where we got it from, but was to decide how you're going to deal with conflict before it happens. So again, I think a little bit of that is like, okay, if we know our roles, we know who gets the end decision on this, no matter how much we disagree. This is who we've decided is going to make that end call. But I think just having a good, and I know you hate this word, but a good system in place that just says, hey, if we
systems, Lord.
If scenario A happens, where do we go from there? If scenario B happens, where do we go from there? Who makes the calls? What is the next steps? I think deciding on how we're going to handle conflict, and it could even be as elementary as like, hey, we're a team. No matter what happens, divorce is not on the table. No matter what happens, how we're not going to deal with conflict is name calling. That's off the table. Like even just setting ground rules of how we're going to deal with conflict has been that was such good advice to get and to implement in how we operate.
Well, it's healthy. It's healthy. I mean, I think any business partner, whether married or not unmarried, is like, it's just, you define it from the start. A big thing that I loved, advice that we got, and that wasn't very early on, but it was later, but it was find mentors that can help you.
Oh yeah.
Find like people or couples that are doing what you want to do and see how they're doing things. And we started, I remember, not that they're mentors, but like John and Lisa Bevere were always a couple that we admired very much in their lifestyle. We follow them on social, we have friends in common, and we've gotten to meet them in person. But they were people that we looked up to as co-hosts in podcasting. And now seeing them and how they do their business and their ministry, and they're both authors in their own ends, and seeing how their family and they're building legacy, that was not that they're mentors of us, but it was good to us see some people as examples.
To see some good examples and see, hey, what's
healthy
working?
Examples,
like clearly something's working there. What does that look like? Of course, we do have real life mentors, and that's allowing them to speak into us is huge,
and that's important.
You
give permission. To you can't just give permission to anybody to speak into your life, to your marriage, and then not let alone like your business. So that's like essential.
So I think having some strong, solid people that we meet with, that we allow into, hey, here's the real of what's going on. Here are the real things we're struggling with. And then giving them permission to speak into us and give us advice is so huge. Another one that I love that we got from a mentor was like, don't let every dinner turn into a business meeting. And again, we talked about this a little bit on the last episode of like leaving room for play, but like,
I think we struggle with that one still.
We do a little bit struggle with that one. But I think one thing that, and we just need to actually hold ourselves to it. So confession time. We don't do this. We don't do this well
again,
yet.
The game is the best advice.
So this is the best advice. But we're working on really following this one, but it is really good advice is to schedule like a regular meeting where we're creating the space to, okay, this is where we're going to talk about all the business stuff, so that when dinner time comes or when lunchtime comes, or that we're not constantly trying to play catch up every time, but we have these set times to talk about the business, to bounce back whatever needs to be bounced back, and just be very intentional about that time, so that we don't allow those conversations to creep into every free moment we actually get on our own.
One of the ones that I think we've always done, I think we just brought it into from marriage into business, was just celebrate the wins.
Big or small.
Big or small, whichever it is, and we're always like, one of us closes a deal, like we celebrate somehow, or one of us accomplishes a task at work, we celebrate it, because it's important to let each other know you're killing it, you're doing awesome.
Because you know what, guys, there's so many hard times, and
Yeah.
those hard times are going to come all on their own. So a win is a win is a win is what we say. And we are going to celebrate the heck out of it together. And again, it's not mean we're throwing parties every time there's a win, but just even that word of affirmation, that pat on the back. Hey, I saw you. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate
And
you right
and
now.
we've trickled that down into our own team,
Yeah.
and being able to celebrate with them their own wins.
Absolutely.
You know, and how we have this thing, we do the snaps.
Yes,
so we
we
have
have a
team
little
meetings,
snaps.
and it's like, okay, what did you? Oh, awesome, you're killing it. So it's like you have to celebrate wins. It brings the
Absolutely.
morale up. It helps productivity.
Yep.
You know, it's just there's a lot in just celebration,
Absolutely.
and it's one of those things where it's like I wasn't used to that. It was celebration was more work.
Yeah.
You did good. Here's more work.
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
that
can
was
we
the
take a
celebration.
breather?
There was never a breather or a break. So
Okay, this is going to sound super elementary, but of course, some of the best advice, pray together. Pray, pray, pray over every decision, every chance you get, pray. I love one of the favorite things that I always sets the tone, and when the rare instance when we don't get the chance to do this, we could tell the day's just off. But I love coming into the office, into the studio, and turning the studio on and playing worship music and just praying with you.
yeah,
And I think it just sets the tone. It gets us on the same page. You know, when we and praying out loud. Like,
Yeah.
I know we talk about this in our God Box episode. If you're new here, I don't know, episode like 3 or something is called the God Box. And we talk about how we did this like at the very beginning of our marriage. And we still 13 years in, still going strong with the God Box. We now have a business God Box. And this concept of like, it's also a praying out loud is such a vulnerability too,
Yeah.
because you have to watch me be so vulnerable before God, and I have to watch you do the same. And then getting to do that together is such a precious, special moment.
Yeah.
And so when you do that regularly, it just creates this bond. Again, like just going back to that 3-strand cord, like it just strengthens that rope more and more and more. And you really just feel like it creates this shield around your marriage, and frankly around our business, that we know that, hey, God's got us and we've got each other. And to have that shared value with your spouse is priceless. Like I can't put into words. I'm honestly having a hard time putting into words what praying together does.
Yeah.
And so to bring that practice into the business and praying together over business decisions, over things, it just, yeah, it's really special.
Exactly. Well, I think that's enough of the game.
Wait, no, there was one more. I have to bring it up. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it. Okay, here it is. Okay, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
If you wouldn't hire them as a business partner, don't assume it'll be easy just because they're your spouse. Guys, the reality is that love does not automatically make someone a great business partner. And this is why I believe, and I'm a strong advocate, even though we work together and I love it and it's been so amazing for us, not every couple needs to be going into business together.
Tell me how you really feel.
Because you still need to have real skills. You still need to have complementary skills. And if we don't have those, I mean, it's like if we tried to build this together. Let's say I have this really genius idea of a content studio and I'm like, yeah, you should come in with me and you should be the producer. Dude, if you suck at editing and producing videos, we're not going to get anywhere. So I think there also needs to be a like just very honest conversation of like, okay, great, we want to work together. Does that mean you come in as a business partner, or does that mean you just do a job for the business? Right? And that could also be, and I think
you can be an equity owner.
Right? Like you can be an employee. That doesn't mean you're a business partner. I think a partnership takes that, and I think the key word here is complementary skills. I think if we both came in here Like, just like we're the chief and pushing each other aside, it would never work. I think the reason it works so well is because your strengths are my weaknesses, and my weaknesses and my strengths are your weaknesses. Like, I think that's why it works so well, is because we complement each other. If we both came in here with the same strengths and the same weaknesses, we would be in trouble.
Yeah.
So that's when I had to bring that one
understand
up.
too.
Like, you also have to know when it's not working.
Yeah. Or also understand, like, when you're weak, like if you're weak at something and she's strong, let her handle her strengths. There's been situations where I've had to step in to handle her strengths, but I failed at it because it wasn't my strength.
It's not your strength. You
So
just gotta let it go.
understand that that's okay. But
okay, so
yeah, that's enough of the game.
Enough of the game. What would we do differently? So Carlos and Carolina, Hi Hello Labs, our marriage, our relationship, our unique situation. What would you say are the things we would do differently, knowing what we know today, that we would do differently if we were to start over? Or if we could start over, what would we do differently?
Understand clearly that you're not going to strike gold from one day to the next. Like,
we're going to have to sit here and wait on God's timing for things?
We have this like mentality that, especially me, I'm very goal oriented. And I'm like, God, by year 2, by year 3, and it's like, I've learned that God is the one moving the pieces. And
we are not in control.
We are not in control.
Absolutely.
And you have to give control. Like, you have to give it away. And honestly, it has costed me. And I tell you, I've been on my knees crying because it's taken a lot from me to just like, God, you do it, because there's no other way. It's either we burn the ships, they're burned.
Yeah.
There's ashes.
The ships have burnt, guys.
And it's God take control or God take control. And I've learned that the hard way, to just remove myself and just let God do.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would tell myself, like, buddy, like, you're going to jump on this. Understand, this is not your doing.
Yeah.
Let him do, and you're going to just not go through a lot of things that I went through.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one I would say is to learn. And again, some of this is like, we got this advice and we just either got it too late or have not been very good at heeding it. But learning to communicate before a problem arises. I think, which the advice was like, have a plan before conflict comes in. But even this one, just like being scared to communicate because I didn't want to offend, or I didn't want to see, or I saw the problem coming a mile away. Carlos may not necessarily have seen it, but I was too like, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to offend him. And, we're just going to leave it. And then the thing would happen. And now I wanted to be like, well, I knew this was going to happen, and and it's like, right, why didn't you say anything? And so I think not waiting for the problems to happen, but actually being so, again, this is like the magnifying glass. Like, we've always had great communication in our marriage, but being in business, we just have to you almost have to over communicate, because these problems, they're bigger, they're more complicated. And so our communication just needs to be it's not at 100, it's got to be at 110. Yeah. And so I think
it's not what color we're going to paint the wall. It's
big
are we going to
stuff.
make payroll next week?
Yeah. And so I think, I would definitely learn to communicate much faster with you if we were to start over.
One of the scriptures that I love, again, going back to Proverbs, because I love Proverbs 16:9, says, the heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps.
Yeah.
And we're both planners, but we've learned, again, going back to, I wish I would have told myself It's God's going to make a way.
Yeah.
It might not be the way you see it. It might not be how you envision it. It's going to be
Mhm.
better. And
Yeah.
honestly, it has been better. We've been business partners for 3.5 years now. And honestly, the highs have been very high and very beautiful. And the lows have been beautiful themselves.
Yeah.
Because
In their own way.
in their own way, it's brought us together. It's brought us to a different level. The lows, and I just got this Instagram post the other day. It's probably the algorithm who's feeding me all this stuff, but it said the lows and the hardships is what makes you.
Mhm.
You know, the highs don't make you. So if you're going through a low, when it's hard, be proud of it, because that's when you're actually being stretched and exercised. You're being formed.
It's biblical.
So,
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, last thing I'll say on this. The thing that I would change, or not that I would change, I would do differently if we were to start over, would definitely be to and we've gotten way better at this, but to establish very clear work-life boundaries. Because like we said in some of that worst best advice, like, it's just hard. It's hard when you're married and doing business and you're together all day, and it's very easy to carry the work with us into the rest of our life, especially at home, especially if you have kids. And it gets in the way. And I think, man, we just gotta give ourselves permission to be like, hey, no, here's a hard stop. 4 to 6, I don't answer emails. You know, I'm not taking
Clients
meetings.
can wait.
Clients
They don't
can
govern
wait.
your life.
Yeah, like we have to have some sort of control there, and we do. And so I think just being very clear on what those work-life boundaries, right? Like even little things like my calendar will not let you schedule a meeting after 2 p.m. Like that's just the way I have it. And it took me a while to be like, wait, I'm in control of that. I can do that. That is perfectly okay. People can wait till the next day to have a meeting. So, yeah, that's that.
And I love that, just tapping into the Sabbath.
Yeah.
The Sabbath is so important. I don't think we mentioned it, but we learned that the hard way too. I mean, we were working 7 days, 24/7, 24/7.
For sure.
I mean, at least I was. But I learned, like, I need a day to rest. It's healthy for me. It's healthy for my family. It's healthy for everything.
And it's a commandment.
And it's biblical. So
it is.
You're
a
disobeying if you're not resting on your Sabbath.
Yeah. But okay, listen, for all the couples considering entrepreneurship, again, just some encouragement. You're not alone. You're also not going to be the exception.
Yeah.
These are the hard parts of
That's
working
the
together.
hardest thing to hear. You're not going to be the exception.
No, you're not going to be the exception. But you know what? You're also not going to be the exception. If you do the work and if you get through it and you understand the season you're in, you're also going to not be the exception and reap the rewards and reap the good that's going to come out of this. And so I think it's both an encouragement and a warning, but also an encouragement.
Yeah.
You know, the key is not perfection, it's intentionality. And if you stay aligned in prayer, you stay aligned in purpose, and you stay aligned in your partnership, you're going to succeed. And it is going to be amazing.
And I know easier said than done, but trust me, it's a recipe for success.
Absolutely.
Stay aligned, stay firm, stay focused, honor each other, respect each other, respect what you're building, because at the end of the day, you're not building what you want to build, you're building what God has placed in your heart to build. So like you said, every morning we come in, we play worship music, and we start praying, because we want the first thing to be produced here is a worship to God.
Yeah.
And we're constantly praying the whole time. So
yeah.
our clients probably like, what's going on? But I will tell you one thing. Clients walk in here and they're like, man, there's just a good vibe. Like, what is the chakra here? Like, what is this? Like, and we're like, it's the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So we're very proud of that. But I think that's good for today.
Yes.
There's plenty more to come.
Until next time.
On CoCalled here in Hi Hello Lab Studio, which again, if you're looking for a podcast studio or content creation studio, look no further. Hi Hello Labs is a place for you. Shameless plug. But also thank you so much for all your support, your feedback, all of the above. Remember, like, share, subscribe. We're on all podcast platforms, YouTube, and on social media.
Yeah.
I'm Carlos.
Carolina. Until next time.
CoCalled.